Okay, I'm going to quickly go through the review sheet for the final exam, and I guess one of the first things I can do here for you guys is change it so it doesn't say 2012 anymore, but says 2014. All right, just so you understand, pretty much everything on this review sheet is going to be on our final exam. There are 46 questions on the final exam that you'll take on Friday. So you want to make sure that you've got all the correct answers on this review sheet and that you're spending time today and tomorrow reviewing for Friday's test. All right, the Earth has, as we all know, 7 continents and 4 oceans. The 7 continents are North America. Let's see how fast I can type this and spell it right. South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, Australia. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the last one would be Antarctica. The 4 oceans are the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and what am I missing? Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic. A-R-C-T-I-C. The blank on the map shows the 4 principal directions of north, south, east, and west. That would be the compass rose. The compass rose. The equator is the 0 line of latitude, or 0 degree line of latitude. The blank on the map shows how far distances on a map would be in real life. That's called the scale. You can use this scale to figure out how far it is from one place to another on a map in real life. Lines of longitude and latitude give us exact locations on Earth, whether you're looking at a map or a globe. So the 2 basic ways that we model the Earth, a map or a globe, on both of those we use lines of longitude and latitude to help us find places. A learned system of shared beliefs and ways of doing things that guide a person's daily behavior is known as culture. That's one of the first things we discussed early in the school year, back in the first grading period. An archipelago is a large group of islands. So the Philippines would be an example of an archipelago. It's a large group of islands in the South Pacific. Hawaii would be an archipelago. A system of government in which the people elect their leaders and rule by majority is called a democracy. A democracy. Type of government that we have in our country. A type of government that was founded back in ancient Greece and expanded upon in ancient Rome. The closer to the equator, the blank overall that the climate gets, the warmer or hotter. Did I spell that right? Yes. The warmer, or you could say hotter, overall that the climate gets. And then, of course, the closer we get to the poles, the colder things get. Global warming is a slow increase in Earth's average temperature. We've talked about the next one over and over again. Large bodies of water are slower to cool down and heat up than the land around them. That's why Lake Michigan is still real cold. Even though we're starting to have 80-degree days, you still probably wouldn't want to go swimming in Lake Michigan because it's going to take a while for Lake Michigan's water to warm up because it's such a large body of water. Population density is greater in blank, means more people in one area. Population density is greater in, I'm guessing, let me check. Yeah, we're looking for the answer large cities or big cities, places like Chicago, New York. So let's just say large cities. Okay. All right, moving on to the North American Caribbean section. Conquistadors were Spanish conquerors during the colonization of the Americas. The Aztec founded their capital city of Tenochtitlan. On a swamp. We talked about that story of them looking for a place to build their capital city and having a prophecy that when they saw an eagle clutching a snake sitting on a cactus, that's where they should build it. Foreign-owned factories located in Mexico along the U.S. border are called maquiladoras. Working conditions there are very poor and the workers are paid very little. Similar conditions existed during the Industrial Revolution in Europe. When we talked about Europe moving into modern times, we talked about the Industrial Revolution and how young children were forced to work in those factories. Okay? And that's comparable to what the maquiladoras are like, the foreign-owned factories in Mexico. Cinco de Mayo is a day in Mexico when people remember a victory over France. Okay, some map questions here. Mexico borders the United States to the south. Mexico is south of us, while Canada borders the United States to the north. The Greater and Lesser Antilles are two chains of islands that make up the Caribbean Sea. NATO stands for the North. That's not how you spell North. Excuse me. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It is a military alliance of several European countries, the United States and Canada. All right, moving to South America. We just had two things here real quick. People of mixed European and American Indian ancestry are called mestizos. T-I-Z-O-S. I believe I spelled that right. Let me double check. M-E-S-T-I-Z-O-S. I thought I was doing that wrong. The longest river system in the world is the Amazon in South America. Okay, moving on to the questions about Europe. The blank were a long series of battles between the Christians of Europe and the Muslims to gain control of Palestine and the Holy Land, and those were the Crusades. A blank is one who rules a country with complete authority. That would be a dictator. A dictator is one who rules a country with complete authority. An epidemic is a widespread outbreak of disease, like the Black Plague. The system that was used in the early Middle Ages to govern by controlling land was called the manor system. Or actually, let me back up there. The feudal system. The manor system was within the feudal system, the land itself and how it was broken up. But the feudal system is where the king would give parts of his kingdom to nobles, who would then give parts of their land to knights, all in the promise of serving for the king if they went to war. A monarchy is when a king or a queen rules a country. The blank was a movement in Europe in the 1500s to change Christianity. That would be the Reformation. The Reformation. The man named Martin Luther got that whole thing started. The Renaissance. R-E-N-A-I-S-S-A-N-C-E. Was an era of rebirth of Europe in the 1500s to change Christianity. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. The Renaissance was an era of rebirth in Europe in the 1300s, where people rediscovered the art, literature, math, and science of ancient Rome and ancient Greece. A lot of new technology was used during, and the correct answer there is World War I. That's the first time airplanes, trench warfare, tanks, poison gases, machine guns were used during a war. So, World War I. World War I. The War of Non-Aggression and the race to nuclear superiority was called the Cold War. That was following World War II, when the United States and the Soviet Union had a many decades-long sort of race to become, to have the strongest militaries, to build the most nuclear weapons. Basically, we tried to scare them, and they tried to scare us. And luckily, no one ever decided to go to war with each other. Next one, the Holocaust, was a horrific example of Hitler's fascism during World War II, where he put many, many Jewish people to death. Julius Caesar was a famous leader of ancient Rome. The Roman Empire fell when the Germanic tribes of the north invaded and Christianity spread. Our current system of government or law, either one will work. Was patterned after many of the principles established by the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans. Both our democratic government was patterned after the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans, and our system of law, our court system, the rules that we have that govern how people are tried, also can be traced back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. The Black Death, or the bubonic plague, was a disease that spread through Europe during the Middle Ages, killing about 1/3 of Europe's population. William Shakespeare, Leonardo, Raphael, and Michelangelo were all famous artists and writers during the Renaissance. Or as they say in England, the Renaissance. Martin Luther disagreed with the Catholic Church and formed the Lutheran Church. That goes back to that Reformation that we talked about earlier. A man named Johann Gutenberg he spells his name like I do, I believe. B-E-R-G. Developed the printing press in the 1400s, changing the way people gained knowledge and shared ideas forever. A peninsula, a landform that's surrounded on three sides by water. Florida is a great example of a peninsula, as well as the country of Italy. An important factor affecting climate is altitude or elevation, meaning air is cooler as you go up the side of a mountain, or altitude. The 5 themes of geography. The most common is region, meaning having similar characteristics. The ancient Greeks worshipped many different gods and goddesses. Deforestation means to cut down trees. Alexander the Great expanded the Greek Empire to most of the known world at the time. And finally, the blank is a group of European countries that have an agreement to trade goods, share workers, and use a common form of money, the euro. That would be the European Union. After World War I and World War II, all the disagreements and fighting that they had in Europe during the early to mid-1900s, most of the countries of Europe are now working together to make Europe a place where people can find work and trade back and forth between countries easily. All right, that covers the main ideas that are going to be on your final exam this Friday. Hopefully you take the time to study and prepare so you can do your very best.